Hello, it's Joelle, and welcome to this 25-minute yin yoga practice for stress and anxiety. I'm going to be using 2 yoga blocks for today's practice, but you could also use some firmer cushions or books if you'd like. And we'll start in half butterfly, and you might sit up on a block or a pillow, extending the left leg out and pulling the right heel towards your hips. And you could sit up tall here, or if you'd prefer, you can simply sit on the mat and use any props in front of you, maybe resting your head on top of them as you fold forward here. So today we'll be looking after ourselves and gifting ourselves this time to slow down. If you are new to yin yoga, I do have a short video on my channel that explains the benefits and the practice in a bit more depth, which I will link below. But essentially what we'll be doing today is holding our poses for between 2 and 3 minutes, as we're doing here, to go deeper and let ourselves sink into the postures in our physical bodies as we allow ourselves to turn inwards. So if you haven't already, I would invite you to close the eyes and start taking some nice deep breaths in and out through the nose, letting our bodies and our minds come to a place of calm and peace. And I'll try not to talk too much and just give us a chance to restore and quiet the chatter. And do remember that you can always come out of a posture sooner if you need to. Otherwise, just hold the pose and breathe. And if you had folded forward, start to press into the hands to come back up, walking the fingertips in. Maybe just moving props out of the way as we extend the right leg as well for a seated straddle. And again, you could be up on a block, on a pillow here, sitting up tall. You could place pillows under the knees. Or again, if you'd like to fold forwards, then you might use your props in front of you, resting the forehead. And maybe over time, as you start to find more openness in the pose, lowering the level of any props and allowing yourself to sink a little bit closer towards the floor. And yin yoga can provide such a wonderful counterbalance to so much of what we do. If you are familiar with the concept of yin and yang, representing duality and balance, then yang would correlate to so much of what we do nowadays. We're always running around and frantically trying to get things done, always active, always mobile. So by taking this time today to slow down and improve the circulation of our yin energy, we can start to balance that out. And a more balanced body, a more balanced mind will help us be more flexible, more adaptable, and more open in terms of how we view the world, how we treat other people, and how we live our lives. And if you had folded forwards, press into the hands once more to start to walk back up. And you might choose to keep the eyes closed here as we move into that half butterfly stretch on the other side, leaving the right leg out long and tucking the left heel in towards your seat. Again, any props can be used as you prefer here underneath the hips, or maybe in front of the body. And of course, Yin Yoga is specifically wonderful for physical flexibility because we're targeting our connective tissues today rather than our muscles. And these tissues tend to get quite stiff and they need time to let go, which is where the benefit of holding these postures for several minutes really comes in. And once you've found the right stretch for you, just try to avoid moving and fidgeting. Just let any sensations and thoughts come up, as long as they aren't too painful or overly intense. And imagine that with every deep out breath, you're releasing anxiety and releasing any stress, anything at all that is not serving you right now. Giving it permission to be on its way. And we'll start to come back up. And we'll just move into a counter stretch after all of those nice deep forward folds. Just come into a seated position with both feet flat on the mat, hands behind us, and we'll just open up through the chest for a nice upper back stretch. You can keep the eyes closed. You might shift the hips a little bit closer to the feet just to open up even further. And just take this opportunity to notice how you're feeling at this point. And allow your breath to release any tension or anxiety. We're not here for quite as long, just balancing out the effects of the forward folds that we've just done. Beautiful. So let's gently release that back bend. And we'll come into square pose. And again, you might sit up on a block here. I like to do that to start out. And we'll bring the right shin on top of the left. And again, it might be nice to place another prop in between the legs here as I'm doing. And you can just stay right here, possibly releasing any props over time, making the pose your own. Some of you may know this pose as fire log pose, but a lot of postures have different names in Yin, and this is square pose. And it doesn't matter what the pose looks like. In Yin Yoga, we never want to force anything, but rather we want to find our edge. And once that edge is found, we simply hold and breathe. And these days, of course, so many of us are dealing with stress in our lives or with the state of the world, and you may have a lot going on in your mind and in your heart. But right now, the best thing you can do for yourself is exactly what you are doing: holding and breathing, releasing and letting go. And let's release that square pose, and it might feel nice to just plant both feet flat on the mat and just take some windshield wipers, rocking the knees from side to side for a few moments here, loosening up those hips. And when you're ready, we can try that square pose on the other side, using your props, sitting up on top of them, placing them between the legs. This side is tighter for me, so I always like to start with my knee on top of a block, and it's that left shin on top of the right for us now. And you can rest the hands, one on top of the top knee and one on the top foot if you'd like. Or you can also bring the fingertips just alongside of you, just anything that helps you find that feeling of sitting up tall, straightening the spine, and again just making the pose whatever it needs to be for you in this moment. You're doing wonderfully. Please also take the time to acknowledge and feel proud of yourself as we release that square pose, maybe windshield wiper a couple more times. And for a bit of a counter stretch here, we'll do some reverse tabletop. So both feet plant into the mat, hands behind us. And just by squeezing the glutes, we'll lift the hips up off the mat and set them back down. Just do that slowly a couple more times. Just releasing through those hips, opening up a little bit through the hip flexors. Shaking off the postures that we've just done. And when you finish that next reverse tabletop, just gently setting the hips back down. And we'll come into melting heart pose, or what you may know as puppy pose. And again, you might want to have some props nearby. So we'll come to hands and knees, and then keeping the hips roughly above the knees, we'll let the chest and the upper body melt forwards. It might be nice to bring a block underneath the forehead here, or you may not need any props for this one and simply let the forehead come to the mat. You can keep the arms extended or maybe bring the forearms to the mat. Again, choosing what type of pose you'd like to experience for today. And feel free to shift around a little bit to find what that looks like. I'll give you an option here as well to take it deeper. If you do have yoga blocks, you can also place one underneath each elbow and bring the palms together as the forehead sinks towards the mat, and maybe the thumbs start to come towards the upper back, just opening up even more deeply into the shoulders and stretching through the triceps. But again, it doesn't matter what the pose looks like. All that matters is that you feel a stretch and that you're breathing and releasing. And let's start to release from that melting heart pose. You might inch the knees in a little bit to help yourselves come out of it. And we'll just use the hands to press ourselves back into a child's pose. So again, a nice counter stretch here. You can keep the big toes together and the knees apart. One of my favorite postures for any time I feel stressed. So anytime we are in a situation where we feel anxious, it's always a nice idea to do poses like this one where we're close to the ground, just letting the ground support us and letting it take over for us. Very nice. So let's press into the hands. We'll start to inch our way out of this child's pose. And we're going to make our way onto our backs, taking our time getting there. And once you've arrived, you can plant both feet just to help yourself lift the hips up and over towards the left side of the mat. As the legs extend towards the bottom right corner of the mat. And you can take hold of opposite elbows and bring them over towards the right side as well. So this is our banana pose with the feet, the head and the elbows all over towards the right side of the mat, and the hips towards the left, getting a beautiful side stretch through the entire body here. And keeping the eyes closed, let yourself simply acknowledge any sensations, any thoughts as they might come up. And then send them on their way, flowing along those nice, deep out breaths. And we can start to release that one, bringing the entire body back to center. Maybe reversing the cross of the elbows, holding on the opposite way, as we shift the hips towards the right side of the mat now, with the elbows, the head, and the feet all coming over towards the left. And it might even feel nice in this banana pose to cross the right ankle over the left. You can just take this opportunity to notice whether the side stretch feels different on this side as opposed to the first side. You can, of course, come back to this practice as often as you would like. I would invite you to return to it anytime you do feel stressed or anytime you just want to take some time for yourself. I do have a couple of previous yin yoga practices as well on this channel, and I would love to know what you think in the comments below, whether you would like more yin yoga sequences or more of these longer sequences in general. Please just let me know. Wonderful. So let's gently bring our body back to center once more, releasing the cross of the legs and the hold of the elbows, maybe shaking the legs out a little bit, and then letting the feet turn outwards, bringing the arms alongside the body with the palms facing up towards the sky. Finding our final and most restful posture of all, shavasana. And I invite you to stay in this shavasana as long as you would like. I do encourage you, whenever you are ready to come out of it, to check out the description box below this video. I do have a playlist of slow, gentle routines, and you might particularly enjoy my 10-minute, very slow morning flow to start your day out right. Please do subscribe to my channel for 2 free videos every week. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this one. And I do hope that this practice has left you feeling calmer and grateful and proud of yourself for these moments of self-care. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you soon. Namaste.